Hi, and welcome to the GaDOE community. My name is Sahira Dean, and I'm your high school 2D art moderator. Today's webinar will allow you to get to know me. I have always had an interest in art. I remember falling asleep in coloring books as a child, laying on the floor, getting excited about a brand new fresh box of crayons that my mom would get me. So it's always been a part of my life. However, I didn't take my first art class until I was a senior in high school. I fell in love with the class, all the different materials. All I knew was crayons and color pencils. So seeing all the different materials in the art class really excited me. I went on to graduate from high school and went to Spelman College, where I entered as an economics major. The economics department was on the same floor, however, as the art department, so economics soon lost me to art. I would ride the elevator every day with art students, seeing them with their big portfolios, and just kind of dreamt that I would be a part of that world. I took my first step into the art studio and immediately went to change my major to studio art. My senior year of college, I took an education class, which allowed me to step foot into an art classroom for the very first time since high school. I was able to observe the art teacher, I was able to teach a lesson, and I immediately felt like this was something that I needed and wanted to do. So I went on to graduate and I went to Georgia State University and I majored in art education, where I got my master's of art education, which allowed me, of course, to become an art teacher. I have been teaching art for 14 years now. I've taught jewelry, photography, ceramics, sculpture. Currently, I'm teaching drawing and painting and studio 2D courses. My family has been definitely a support system for me. This is my husband, Denard. We actually got married just this past November. We had a very small backyard wedding considering what's going on with COVID. These are my two kids. Melvin, who is 8, loves sports, loves video games, loves reading. Currently in 3rd grade. He just recently discovered that he actually enjoys character design as well. This is my daughter, Abigail, who's 5. She's in kindergarten this year. She's a talker. She can talk, talk, talk. She loves telling stories. She loves artwork, and she actually loves spending time with me in the garden as well. This is my cat, Cashew, who for the most part really enjoys sleeping. She also, as you can see, loves to eat as well. This is some of my current work. So previously I dealt with dandelions. I was drawn to just how delicate their seeds are, how they can travel and be planted. And I thought about just sustainability, my growth as an artist, as a person, as a mom, as a teacher. So I expressed a lot of that through that dandelion series. My current work has to do with, I call it the garden selfie series. So I'm taking different pictures and redoing those in watercolor and ink, but they're different. There are different views of my garden rendered in different materials. So this is another hobby of mine. I call it my happy place, my garden. I actually planted my first seed when I was a college student. I planted my first seed when I was a college student and had success growing my first watermelon. It wasn't that big. It was about a softball size, but it was the sweetest watermelon I'd ever tasted. And I was so, so proud that I grew food, right? So I've been connected to the garden just kind of ever since. And I feel that it's very similar to teaching in a lot of ways, which I'll talk about on a later slide. This is my classroom. I have actually taught at 4 different schools. My very first year teaching, I was actually on a cart. I shared a classroom with 3 other art teachers. Though it was a very challenging year, I felt like I learned a lot this year and that I was able to see and experience how other teachers managed materials, how they built rapport with students. So I gained a lot that very first year of teaching. I went on to another school after being surplus. I was the fourth art teacher and then hired on again as a fourth art teacher at another school. And I shared a classroom. There was a partition. I was on one side of the partition and then the other teacher was on the other side. So I taught photography on the smaller side of the partition. Of course, it had the dark room. And then I taught drawing and painting in a totally another classroom. So that was another awesome experience. I felt like that year I was, kind of getting myself grounded, learning more about advocacy, learning more about competitions and scholarships and things like that for my students. Later on, I was surplused once again to an elementary school. I spent 1 year there, and it was the ride of my life. I felt like I learned a lot. It was very, very challenging just because I think I was used to working with high school students more. But I learned a lot, and actually this was the year that I learned I was pregnant with my son. So I think that was God's way of helping me to become a better parent in a lot of ways, because I learned so much about just young kids, and I find myself drawing to that experience a lot with my own two kids. But it also helped me to think about teaching and explaining lessons in a different way. So it helped me, be able to break down content to my students, my high school students, in different ways to help them to understand and grasp onto concepts. So later on, I went back to, after teaching that year of elementary, I was actually able to be hired back at the very first school that I worked at. However, this time I was the first one hired, and I was hired on as lead art teacher. And I got the largest art room out of the 3 art rooms. So imagine my excitement of having a huge art room, a huge storage space, and just being very excited about planning for the year ahead. I taught ceramics, drawing and painting, and 2D art. I taught ceramics, drawing and painting, and AP studio classes there. So currently, this is my current classroom, still in Fulton County, and this is actually one of my favorite spaces that I've worked in. It's a very long classroom, and actually, if you to the right, that door that's open takes you to an office, and then there's a portfolio room where we do matting and things like that and organize some portfolios back there. And right across the hall are my 2 colleagues. So I really love this space. And what I try to do with my classroom, I do play a lot of music. I try to make it very welcoming for students and just a space where they can kind of come in and create and just kind of ease off the day the best they can. So a lot of times we'll have a stool under normal non-COVID conditions. There's a stool at my desk for students to kind of either sit and talk about their artwork, or if they need to vent or things like that. The reason that I teach is I really liken it to my experience in the garden, the idea of planting a seed, nourishing it, watching it grow. Of course, some plants and students need more time and energy than other things that you might plant, or other students, right? But the idea of it is still the same. So I just like that idea of, watching something grow, seeing a student reach their full potential, or even go beyond what they thought they could do. So just the aha moment of it all continues to amaze me. It never gets boring. It's always exciting. A lot of my students tend to come back and volunteer in my classroom. I try to leave that door open. So they've been visiting artists. I've hosted some of their shows. They do a lot of artist talks and things like that. Some of them have, when we were able to take college tours, they took us on tours of the campus. So I try to leave the relationship, or just the door open for them to come back when they need to, and a lot of them do. One of my favorite concepts that I've exposed students to in my classroom is the idea of the visual verbal journals, or popularly known as the VVJs. I find that they're very kind of terrified of the concept at first, just because they are a lot of the ones that I assign are very open ended. I might show them a technique that they have to use, or just kind of a present a broad topic, or it might be a word that they have to explore. Um, but once they get over the the fear of not having boundaries, they find themselves creating something really amazing, something from that they're passionate about, something that they cherish. So their journals tend to, a lot of their techniques that they experiment with tend to show up in a lot of their artwork. And then it really, I think, inspires them to work larger, to possibly, some of them have worked in public spaces. So the journals, I believe, is one of my favorite things that I teach to my students. All right, advocacy. Advocacy, I think, is one of the most important responsibilities of being an art educator. An art advocacy is one of the most important responsibilities of being an art educator. It not only promotes your students, it promotes your program, which ultimately brings things full circle for your students. In a normal year, I challenge myself to participate or to allow students to participate in it'd be a different art show, or possibly a different field trip, or a different just art event each year, just to kind of continue to allow them to see that the world is big and opportunities are big. I began hosting a middle school, high school art show 2 years ago, and that's kind of stuck with me ever since. I feel it allows middle schoolers to, just that high school experience. They can connect with some of the students. They can meet their teachers, which hopefully they get excited about. And, just a night in the life of, of a high school student, I think they get really excited about. So, of course, I invite community members, principals, their families, and it becomes a really nice event. There's food and music and things like that. I've hosted art shows for artists in the community as well. Um, and this is the gallery spaces that I've been honored to have at my school have been just really nice spaces. Parents have volunteered to kind of transform the spaces, and I think that's one important thing about establishing those relationships and advocating for your program. As community members and parents see that you will go almost to the end for their child, a lot of times they reward the program for your efforts. So I've been able to just establish some really good connections in doing that. And also, students have benefited by meeting different artists, by being able to be apprentice or be interns for some of those local artists that have been invited as well. So I wanted to spend a little more time talking about advocacy within your school, and then a little bit of time talking about advocacy on just your online platforms. So what I like to do, and of course this is normal pre-COVID conditions, I like to ensure that I circled out or cycled out current student work. So as soon as we finish projects, I have drawing and painting one, two, three, four in AP classes. I would cycle out or pull some work and have that ready to go for the next display. And so I was displaying work every 2 weeks. So my plan actually now with virtual is to do the same thing, but I'll be printing out the work, and I'd like to especially for virtual students, since they're not physically in class, I'd like to possibly have a picture of them holding their work or a picture of the student right next to the work. That way it kind of puts them a little bit in school, though not physically, but, just kind of a symbiotic type of situation. Um, so it puts them in the environment without actually being there. The work is represented for them. So that's my plan for the virtual. But this was something that a lot of teachers look forward to. My principal was excited that I was rotating the workout frequently, so I plan to continue to do that. But also just the students seeing their work on display. It became almost like um, a mini competition of sorts, especially in my introductory level classes. Oh, she's going to put my work up. Oh, mine was on display. So it becomes something that they're really proud of, almost like my kids, me putting my their work on the refrigerator at home. It's such pride in walking by and seeing their work on display. This was another opportunity that in our introductory classes we developed this lesson where they had to use blind contour drawings, modified contour drawings of plants, and then they went in. There were several layers to the lesson plan, but it turned out really really nice, and the students were excited about the results. We were excited about the results, and this actually was a show that was on display at Kennesaw State University. So I submitted the paperwork, and we were able to have the show there. So we had to select, I believe it was 30 works to be on display. They held a reception for the kids and their families. They were very excited about going, getting the invitation, being selected. Um, so that sense of pride just kind of carried around the building. They hear it around the building. So what I did was, since the works weren't physically at the school, there are these two TVs that are on display in the front of the school. So I put a presentation together and was able to just have the work cycling for a week. And, that allowed teachers to know, oh, we have an exhibit coming up at Kennesaw State University. Please congratulate these students. So it just made, again, these students feel really special and proud of the work that they created. And being selected to be in that show was a really big deal. One thing that I did this year, I've done it before, but not in this fashion, or last year, I guess it was last school year, was an AP student art show. And what students had to do, of course, you normally, with shows like this, students are always responsible for matting their work, hanging their work, coming up with a flyer, doing the reception, and things like that. So just the accountability piece, I feel, was really big. So you can see them here hanging their work. These are all my AP students from last school year, hanging their work. So they had to take headshots. There were some criteria set for their headshots. They had to include their artist statement, and work together to figure out the best way to hang their work, so that it just was visually pleasing. So the conversations in the room were, oh, I really like, how my work flows, right directly into your work. The themes are similar. They were helping each other with, executing, making sure things are straight and even. So just the camaraderie, the teamwork, the sense of community that it created around this show amongst this class was phenomenal. We actually, the plan was to have a live orchestra or band members play at the exhibit. And actually, at one of the shows, we did have an orchestra member play, but I think there was some kind of conflict that particular night. But that's another idea for ways that at my old school we were able to, just kind of build relationships with other departments, having students perform at the exhibit. It allowed other people that may not normally come to exhibit come see the show, as they're supporting their child that's playing the music at the show. But nonetheless, this particular event was very successful for the students and the program. One last thing I did want to talk about um, was just your online presence and how important that is as an educator. Just posting your student work on Twitter, posting student work on Instagram. You can easily kind of blurb out faces and things like that, but just highlighting student work, it becomes a way to connect with other teachers at other schools that might be doing similar projects. It might be a way to inspire other art teachers who might need some guidance in some particular lessons. But just the connection and the community that's built um, on platforms like Twitter, platforms like Facebook, and Instagram. You gain this following for your students, which could lead to donations. It could lead to opportunities for students in terms of internships and things like that. Um, so my Twitter is usually where I do a lot of posting. So if I'm changing up the exhibit, or if we have a show coming up, I post that out. Or if I see student progress being made on a project, I'll post that out. So I'm always trying to highlight student engagement activities and things like that on Twitter. So connections and opportunities beyond the classroom. I feel really lucky that I've been able to present at GaEA now for 3 or 4 years. I've been able to teach a class at the High Museum of Art. I was able to write curriculum for the jewelry, the program for the state, and also able to write curriculum for my county. So it's been a really rewarding experience. I've done some presentations and professional development for my school and for other art teachers also in my community as well. In which that brings me to being a PLC facilitator for the Georgia Department of Education, which I'm really, really excited about. This role will not only allow me to learn more about you, but hopefully establish connections with art teachers from around the state of Georgia. I'm so excited to work with you.